Victoria Larson for Kalini Coastal. Nice stuff. Okay. It's a very lightweight paper. Just let me point something out. You see how you can see through it? This product is a paste the wall. And it's such high quality stuff. The wallpaper roll itself is $200. I asked the customer. That's what it retails for. But this paper goes up very nicely. Very nicely. I've hung it before. And it's just a fine product. Then you come to a corner. You've maintained your pattern so far perfectly at the ceiling. You have the same amount of leaf showing at every interval sheet. But when you get to the corner, you know that it's not a 90-degree angle. This wall covering will have to come in a little more, or this one a little more here, a little more out there. The end result is you lose the pattern at the top. Well, keeping that in mind, one of the tools to prevent this from happening without you noticing is a laser level. So when I hang my next sheet, here's the perfect thing you want. You see this? You get a part of the pattern that delineates an exact corner or something. Look, I'll cover it. You see how it goes right into that? Well, that sheet that we're going to hang, you want to have that pattern. See, here we are again. You want that right there as well. You see, paper hangers get blamed for all of the imperfections in a room. And so there's a lot of great paper hangers out there who don't know how to defend their work. And they wind up walking away sometimes without getting paid for their work. I spoke to a guy in Australia. Oh no, it was New Zealand. He said, you know how that goes, Spencer, I didn't get paid. And the job looked perfect. So, lasers don't lie. If my next sheet, I maintain the pattern here, and it's off there or here, which I anticipate that it will be off there. My argument is going to be, well, based on your pattern, and based on the corner, I decided to maintain the pattern level. You see, you may want to give this up on this sheet. We don't know how it's going to look. You can also recover your pattern on this sheet. It's tricky. If your ceiling is not straight, and I mean only by a half of an inch, well, you know, if you look, you'll see. You see, this is kind of abstract, and so it's not noticeable. But if you had, I always use a clown's head at the top, and you start seeing his eyes disappearing and going up into the ceiling, it's noticeable, and it's a substantial issue when it comes to getting paid. But for the sake of teaching about this issue, we'll simply use our abstract leafy pattern to zone in on the issue. The corner will throw off the pattern because we'll have to converge the wall covering into the corner in order to keep this sheet plumb. Because the corner will go in or out, and I must adjust my corner accordingly so that I don't have a gap. If I do that, meaning if I push my wall covering in and overlap it up to about an inch, well, I'm going to lose pattern in the corner, but I may also lose pattern at the top because the top may be off. And I may lose pattern at the top because of what I'm doing to the corner. So you have to use either a plumb bob, a spirit level, or a laser level in order to figure this out. Okay, let's get going. Okay, we got our wool covering into the corner. Of course, we're going to not trim yet our top and bottom. And so the naked eye can't see yet what, if anything, will result if we didn't cut the corner. Okay, so you're new at paper hanging. You're pretty good at it, but there are things you just don't know. And this video is one such thing you may not be aware of, the issue with inside corners. Now, you say, do I cut my corner? Well, I know veteran paper hangers that don't cut the inside corner. I know of a person in the Tampa Bay area. She does not cut her corners. So, now before you take that as, oh, I don't have to cut the corner, let me explain something, please. So, if the corner were perfectly 90, meaning this and that were at a perfect 90 when you look down. You see this? That's a 90-degree angle. Okay. If this were perfectly 90, this would be straight. Now my wallpaper is in the corner. You would agree? Look at how nice and tight that is in there. Okay. So you push it all the way in the corner. You make sure you get the air out. You don't do this. Don't rub this up and down here. You'll burnish it. You'll mark it up. Nice and easy. Just push in the corner and lift up. Lift, lift, lift. Okay, so you did that. Okay. Now let's see if we're straight here. Before I reveal the results of the laser, I will say that when it's off, you get buckles like that. See that? You get a buckle, but look how good the corner is. Look at this. Whoa! Our one corner is pretty good. It's pretty good. So can we leave the corner without cutting it? Let's talk about it. One of the reasons why we cut the corner is because we have to adjust, because this is not straight. But we don't have that issue here, do we? Oh, we're just running off a 1/16 of an inch. But guess what? In the wallpaper business, you're not off there. That's not off. You can easily make that up with a little push here and a little pull there. That's not off. So, can we leave this uncut? Say, Spencer, I like the way it looks. It's not cut. I don't want to have a line there. I don't like that. Well, guess what? If you don't cut the corner, listen to what you're going to have tomorrow. Listen. Listen. Listen to this. You hear that? What? Now listen here. Oh, listen, watch this. Now listen here. Do it again. Do it here. What's the difference? Look close. Do you see a tight corner there? Do you see a tight corner there? Yes, here, and not here. If you don't cut your corner, this will lift off before you get paid, and you may not get paid. Cut your corner. Nobody wants rounded corners. Gotta cut it. Gotta cut it. And when we do, here's what's gonna happen. I'm just gonna tell you, I can already tell. This has so much air under it that it's not a true corner. Once I push it in, if I'm not smart enough to lift this up so that this is free to move in the corner, toward the corner, I'm going to cut the wall covering short. Do you understand what I mean? Let me lift this up. Okay, now it's going into the corner because the edge is not tethering it 16 inches away. Now I'm not going to get it. Now look at how my line moves. Oh, Spencer, that's 1/8 of an inch. No, that's not something we want. You see that? And there go our buckles. Cut your corner and you'll be a happy paper hanger. So how do I cut my corner? Well, don't freehand it and go in the corner like this. You want to put your smoother on the finished wall. This wall is done. You want to put it against the finished wall so that this wallpaper, after cutting it, winds up under this sheet. Just by this thickness. So I'm going to put my smoother here. And then I'm going to put my knife against it, like this. And I'm going to push the knife against the green, and I'm going to create a lip from this piece that will wind up under this, so that when you look in the corner, you don't see the edge of this piece. Let's do it. Let me show you. If you look at my trim line already, you can see it's wider in some areas and less wide in others. See that? Which means my corner is off. When you're finished trimming the piece, you just can't leave it like that, all right? You see that we have a lip now, over which will be covered, over which will be placed a cover by this sheet. See? Okay, so let me do that. And now, because we can anticipate our edge will not be straight because of the, ready? Vicissitudes of the angle, we now need to be guided by a laser. The laser will determine the greatest threshold of movement of this sheet toward the corner that we need the minimum to cover the corner. Because the more we trim in the corner, the more pattern we're going to lose. So there's a threshold, and we stop at the threshold, meaning that amount of movement, the point at which we no longer have to move this sheet toward the corner, that's our threshold. We have to find it. What is it? I don't know. You'll see guys online coming up with complicated equations. Use a laser level, or just get your level out with a helper, and you'll move it over enough to where you say, that's it, it's plumb here, and my corner is covered. As soon as the point at which this sheet covers the corner, you then have to look at the rest of this corner on this sheet to see if your whole corner is covered, and then don't move it in anymore. Because the more you move it in, you're going to lose more and more of this sheet. So you stop at the minimum threshold. Example. Ideally, this wallpaper sheet fits right over here, just at the corner, and we don't trim. Technically speaking, right now, that is our threshold. So we'll move our laser out to the edge of the paper. But look at how much we're off. Because the rest of the sheet is moved toward the center, but it's throwing off our line. So we have to get to that point at which this is straight, and the minimal amount of wallpaper here is trimmed at the corner. That's our threshold. So let's do that. If we were to move our sheet out to comply with this, what we thought was the threshold, we'll see that we cause a gap. And so we know our threshold is going to exceed this laser line inward. So let's do that. And we're only talking about less than 3/16 of an inch. So let's do that. Let's move it in 3/16 of an inch. And you'll see where we hit that threshold. I'll tell you about it so you understand it easier. Okay. So, as we expected, we didn't have to trim in the corner much. I haven't trimmed yet because I want to show you what our threshold number was. So we determined, without cutting too much in the corner, what is the greatest distance from the corner we could put our wallpaper? And so we moved it around and adjusted it and found that we caused the gap. As soon as we closed the gap and went up and down and the gap was closed, that was our minimum. So when we get the gap closed after trimming the corner, cutting the corner, after we move the wallpaper over to close the gap, giving ourselves the greatest distance from the corner to the edge, we then see if it works out. But if we have another gap, it means we got to go closer to the corner because we need to trim more and lose more pattern in the corner because our corner is so screwy that we have to feed the corner with wallpaper. And we stop at the threshold. We stop moving the paper toward the corner when that point comes where where our corner is filled with wall covering, and then we establish a straight line. That is the most movement toward the corner that you want. It's called your threshold. And so let's go up the corner. Our pattern meets perfectly here. It's all perfect, 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 perfect. We're losing pattern. We're losing pattern because as we go up, we lose. We lose a little here, but you can't notice. Oopsies, we lost. But you can barely see it because of the changing colors. Oh, we lost 3/16 of an inch there. Yep. We lost pattern. But on this, guess what, folks? You're not gonna notice it. You're not gonna notice it. Now, when I trim my wallpaper, you'll see the numbers of 16ths of an inch that we had to move it over. That's our threshold number. Now, many paper hangers won't do what I'm doing here. They think it's not right. So now I lightly pressed on this wall covering, and just to trim our excess. That's your threshold right there. That's the amount of 16ths of an inch toward the corner you had to move it to close the gap. That is approximately 3/16 of an inch. Okay, but I pressed lightly. Now, if you're new at this, you may penetrate and violate the corner by pressing too hard. So I understand why other guys don't do this. But if you go light, you'll see that you barely penetrate it. You have to tug on it, okay? And as we know, we met perfectly, so there was no trimming here. We're gonna wash it up and come to the conclusion that our corner is done, it is cut, and our forward edge is ready to receive the next sheet.